Bag, I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and the producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, I'm trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted, cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured, but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of our presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. Be one code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. Be one egg.
What's growing on? What's growing on? What is growing on? Welcome to B1 Ag, the Daily Bread Podcast. I'm John Henry Harris, and we also have Farmer Brown, the MC. Here at B1 Ag, we focus on Black agriculture as it pertains to agricultural production, education, marketing, health, food, nutrition, and economics, all for the Black family and for the Black community. Welcome Black to the garden. Recently, they just opened the world's most advanced lab-grown meat factory in California, in the Bay Area. Now, this meat factory is a new facility producing lab-grown meat. Now, here at B1 Ag, we've been following and doing more and more updates about this new lab-grown meats and plant-based meats. Well, it's here. This is not science fiction. It is here now, and it is actually a 53,000 square foot facility built in the Bay Area. And right now, although the production is capped at 50,000 pounds per year, this one facility, it's capable of producing 400,000 pounds of lab-grown meat per year. Hey y'all, the future is now. Now, the main catalyst behind the lab-grown meat is trying to lower the carbon emissions that comes from conventional livestock raising. A lot of those emissions are trying to cut down the carbon production, and really the goal is to get it to zero. So that the climate control, climate change is that's what's being said as the main catalyst. But it is a new industry. It's a growing industry. But also, as a caveat, we got to understand that despite the impressive output of meat that they can produce, and the less carbon emissions, lower carbon emissions producing this meat, the Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture have yet to clear lab-grown meat for sale in the United States. So here at B1 Ag today, this is what we're going to talk about and discuss. The world's most advanced lab-grown meat factory opens in California. But is this really a win for humanity? Farmer Brown, let's dive deep.
First, I just like to say peace to the B1 family. Hope everybody's doing well. Like you like to say, man, it's getting strange out here. So right now, within agriculture, there's no such thing as a void. There's no such thing as, okay, while I figure this out, this will just sit still while I work on my operation. So when we talk about the importance of livestock, if you want to come from an economic standpoint, this represents 18% of the producers or ranchers in what we call North America Turtle Island. This equates to about 238,000 different farms. These are confined animal confined animal feeding operations, CAFOs. When we think about the melanated family that have been able to keep their operations going, so more than 49% of the profitable what they classify as black farms are raising some form of livestock. This would be your cows, this would be your goats, your sheep, even chickens will fall, or poultry will fall within this CAFO, confined animal feeding operation. And so on one end, yeah, if you're wanting to save the planet, hug the trees, I get the logic behind we want to reduce greenhouse gas. But also, as we have this discussion, I want the family to kind of internalize that there was a time on Turtle Island that there were bison. There were these ruminant animals, goats. You think back to biblical times, people raised livestock, sheep, goats, poultry. And so animals have always been a part of the ecosystem. Here at B1 Ag, we mainly like to focus our conversation around vegetable and fruit production, produce, but we also are aware that there's a large contingency of people that still eat meat. And when we think about the ecological standpoint, where do you get fertilizer from? Some of the best fertilizer comes from manure that will come from some of these large ruminant animals, your cows, your chickens, your goats, your sheep. And so I do think this is worth deep diving a little deeper to ask the question, is this a win for humanity? Considering the Most High created what we see as cows, goats, sheep, hogs, chickens. Are they a part of the ecosystem? Is it better for scientists and laboratories to raise or create the meat that we eat versus just, having more sustainable practices in the natural ecosystem? And so I look forward to deep diving into this conversation.
Now, the name of the facility is dubbed EPIC, which stands for Engineering, Production, and Innovation Center. And it's been billed as the first of its kind. And the company says that it's ready to start producing 50,000 pounds of cultured meat for commercial sale as soon as it's legal in the United States. So again, this is a very altruistic approach that they're coming from to save the planet and lower carbon emissions. But this food still has not been cleared for human consumption. From on the company's website, they say our meat production method is inspired by nature's basic principles. Start with one cell and give it the proper nutrients to allow it to grow and multiply. Now, as you know it, lab-grown meat is verboten in the industry. Adding to those basic principles, the CEO, Emeryville, has a history as a cardiologist, and he was inspired to start Upside Foods, which is the company behind the lab-grown meat factory, by the idea of injecting stem cells into the human heart to help it heal after a heart attack. And he says, we're committed to completely detaching our production process from animal slaughter. Our aim is to bring animal component-free products to the market as soon as we can. So this is that test.
I think you have a video real quick, bro. When we talk about this lab-grown meat, I think the family needs to see what this process looks like. We have a quick video just to kind of put it in perspective. It sounds all too altruistic. We have these viruses and germs going around, and so nature creates these viruses. They're just a natural part of life, but we're going to go to our laboratories to mitigate. And so I want the family to kind of keep that in mind before we continue in this conversation.
The muscle tissue consists of fat cells and muscle cells, which are separated to produce cultured beef. By dissecting the muscle cells, individual cells can be removed and cultured. The cells start from one small piece of tissue. This pioneering technique can produce more than 1 trillion strands. When all these little pieces of muscle are layered together, we get exactly the same thing we started with: beef.
hungry, make you want to go out to the barbecue. And so we know the average American, just in what we call Turtle Island, eats 140, and this is as of 2021, eats on average 144 pounds of meat per year. This isn't including seafood or poultry. This is what we call red meat, 144 pounds on average a year. Once again, here at B1 Ag, we're not, trying to sway anybody's opinion either way. There's some people that want to hold on to the meat diet. There's others that want to get away from it. But, this is an economy. There are people who literally, we had done a video not too long ago talking about one of the first forms of currency or trade was trading livestock. Hey, I got X amount of goats over here. I see you got some chickens. Can I trade you some of my goats for some of your chickens? We know this is a part of a diet, but when we're looking at, like I said, 18% of the farmers in the country are raising livestock. This is going to have huge economic implications as far as, okay, if I've had this land in my family 50 years, 100 years, what am I going to now do with it if y'all's goal is to raise no more livestock, slaughter no more animals? That's almost equivalent to going to a jungle, telling a lion, hey, we want to be energy sufficient, so you can't hunt down any of these gazelle or zebra anymore. When we think about the food chain, and so you have predators, you have different components of a food chain. And so, once again, the Most High made everything perfect. It was the scientific-minded people who decided, oh, wait, hey, we can do this better than you. And so I do think that is a part of this discussion. But I also would, for the entrepreneur-minded people who are wanting to get into agriculture, might have a background in livestock, to really contextualize where the world is going, where food security is going. I think it was interesting that they said, oh, well, we can't really market it or sell it right now in the U.S. because the FDA hasn't approved. Here in the last couple of months, the melanated family has seen how quick, right, doesn't sound too tasty, right? But we've seen how when there's a bag attached, that some of these qualifying officials, when it comes to what's healthy for human consumption and what's not, we see how some people can be coerced to look the other way. To rub my crystal ball, I will say that lab-grown meat is going to become a part of the food system. And so, what are immediate things you could do? Either you can wean yourself off of meat. Some people will accept this as normal, especially when we're talking about younger kids. And this is why we have this B1 Ag conversation. Show these young people what it means to grow something from seed to table, from embryo to barbecue grill. And then from there, they can make a more conscientious, educated decision on, now, do I want to fill my body with this? What are the things that go into producing these things that I'm eating? Is this a thing where maybe we have no meat Mondays? I saw a sister the other day and brought that up to where, okay, me and the family has been kind of watching y'all's content, so this is what we're going to do. We're just going to start cutting down on certain things we eat as to where it doesn't become overwhelming. These are definitely conversations to have. The first one of these opened up in Israel a few months ago, and we had touched on that, but now it's here in the States.
I also have some pictures I would like to show you. Now, this is just outside of the carbon emissions. There's this wave of, being kind to the animals and, saving the animals. So this is what a typical meat market or slaughterhouse looks like, as you would imagine. Rows and rows of carcasses. Them cutting up the meat into portions. Now, when it comes to lab-grown meat, this is what the factory looks like. It looks more like almost like a microbrewer, like where they make beer, a brewery. So, yes, carbon emissions will be cut, but this is what is going to be producing your food. So is
I'm
this a
gonna try to play the devil's advocate in this, right? You made a very good point. We understood symbols and visuals before there was ever such thing as a language or alphabet. Going back to my analogy of the lion or any predatory within a food chain or food web, there is birth is a bloody process. When I was watching my twins being born, I mean, not to get too graphic to the family, it was a very bloody situation. But outside of that bloody situation, we have these two beautiful children. It's just a little wiping off, washing, two beautiful, healthy children. When I think about stories my mom would tell me about, in the deep South raising chickens, they learned how to choke chickens, process them, you boil them, get the feathers off. I remember one of my experiences when I was doing my undergrad studies, I had to process 300 chickens. We had to get this little stun gun, stun them. They're pooping on us and everything. We had to put them in the little processor where it takes the feathers and takes the feathers off. But then these become packaged chickens. It didn't make me stop eating chicken, but it made me have a greater respect of, wow, millions of us eat these chickens, and it gives you a greater appreciation of what all goes into how we eat what we eat. And so you showed that picture of what those, and so I've seen a couple of those dressing operations too with the cows. The optics can be horrible. It can be horrible, but I imagine if you split my body open and look at what my body looks like inside, it's detestable. But because of all of this odd looking stuff going on in the body, you have this beautiful image of Farmer Brown, right? Saying that to say, when you eat something, what comes out in the toilet looks very nasty. But if that process didn't happen, then how else are you going to get your nutrients? Those big laboratories, like you said, the brewery, yeah, that's cute, but that doesn't represent life to me. I'm somebody that promotes life. I'm somebody that promotes the natural process. It looks sanitary and safe, but that's going to be dependent on electricity. And so what happens if you get a country full of people that are dependent on their meat supply or even the vegan meat that we talk about, because those operations look pretty much the same. So what happens when a critical mass of us are now dependent on these lab farmers to produce our food, and then there's the grid goes down. There's a solar emission.
And I think that's an issue that most of these scientists or lab grown meats and these factory produced foods, they're not really addressing is the amount of power that is going to, they're getting rid of emissions, but they're increasing the amount of energy that's going to be charged to the grid. Nothing comes for free. Nothing in this planet is free.
Just this year, so we know there's a microchip shortage.
Right.
There's a lot of theories about what you're doing with these microchips. Maybe they're for clothes, maybe they're for computers, maybe they're for people. There's a lot of theories of what's going on with microchips, but there's a shortage. A syringe shortage. And I saw this come across my desk a couple of weeks ago. Oh, man, because we've been, all these people been going to meet with Dr. Jabinski, we now have a syringe shortage. And so what happens when you get your food supply dependent upon all of these man-made products that are subject to a supply chain disruption, subject to a blackout, subject to, weather went bad and now our whole factory is down, subject to your boy Bill Gates said, what if there's 10 airports where, smallpox is released? You have all of these things going on that could affect, now if I just understood the concept, I go out here, hunt something, I raise something like you talk about with your granddad. I raised you, I fed you, I know exactly what it is that you are as I'm about to consume you. You are what you eating, so I know what I fed you. So when you allow science, they tell us to follow the science, but then there's also a natural science of, I got these canines for something. I got these abilities to hunt, fish. What happens when we allow there to be a middleman in the process of how we eat? Is that sustainable? We're saving greenhouse gases, but then now you're more dependent upon unnatural means of procuring your food. Is that safe? Is that sustainable?
And I like to go back to, is it safe? At the end of the day, this is new. It's not even been regulated by the U.S. The Food and Drug Administration. It's not made legal for human consumption yet. So therefore, there hasn't been any studies on the effects of lab meat on the human body. What will this do? Because I'm looking at on the company website, and they're quick to say, they're not shy about the eco-friendly credentials. The cell cultured meat will require up to 90% less land and water and emit up to 90% fewer greenhouse gases. That's great. They said that they actually expect, with the production of lab-grown meat, for the greenhouse gas to reverse. Instead of using larger land for the necessary agricultural crops required for livestock farming, large areas could be released and redeveloped for use for other purposes, such as carbon capture. And they also say that we expect that our cells will be capable of indefinitely self-renewing, so that we won't need to return to the animal for subsequent samples. So these cells are just going to keep reproducing themselves. Now, what is that going to do to the human body? You're going to have these lab-grown meat cells reproducing in your body?
It makes me think of this concept of breakthrough infections. We had this great idea to address this thing that happened. Oops. Oh, now there's breakthrough. So really you're not protected from what we said. Applying this to what we're talking about with this lab-grown meat. Well, it sounded like a good idea to feed the people and keep from killing the cows, but there's all of these other, because we are naturally organic beings. We've been contaminated in some sense, dealing in this society we've been dealing in, but we're organic beings. And so when you take that organic process of producing how we empower our bodies through food, when you disrupt that process, you're going to indelibly have unintended consequences. I'm going to jump down the rabbit hole on this. I have to put my tinfoil kufi on right now. And so we see what's going on with medicine. We saw the interview the other day your boy Gates had talking about, we're going to have the jabs that you can just, put a little chip on your arm and it'll administer your medicine. So I'm wondering, is it controlled? Are you creating a problem and then selling the solution? So if I'm going to have a large percentage of my population dependent upon this lab-grown meat, is somebody smart enough to know, okay, we're going to have some lab-born illnesses that didn't naturally occur in real life. The body doesn't have a real natural immune system to get rid of whatever virus I might have had from eating some bad spinach, right? Like your body already has mechanisms in play to deal with naturally occurring viruses and bacteria. But what happens when you're introducing something grown in a lab that hasn't been tested over 50 years? I think when you're talking about the jabs, it's supposed to be 8. No, y'all done threw something together in a year. So what does this look like with food that somebody's eating consistently? Is this creating a bag for big pharma? Since I know that y'all are experimenting with this food, I know y'all are going to have, y'all think diabetes is bad. Y'all think high cholesterol and all of these other pre-existing conditions are bad. Oh, what happens when you're not even eating real meat no more? The meat that you're eating never ran around. One of the things when you study ancient cultures, I thought this was interesting. And so if you want better vision, some tribes say eat the eyes of a certain type of animal. If you want to have more heart, literally eat the heart of certain animals. There is an indelible connection we have with the land and the natural living things on the land. When you take that living component out of something, what does that make us? Absolutely. And we know cancer, all the billions of dollars thrown into cancer, and it still hasn't been cured. But what, the capitalist in me understands, as long as there's a problem, I'm always going to have a bag to act like I'm trying to solve it. The best way to eat is learning how to grow your own, or at least learning what it looks like to grow your own. And then you have an option. What I don't want to see is a world where my twins The only option of food they have is either this mystery plant-based meat on one shelf. You just want to get a burger for your barbecue, or this lab-grown meat, or these vegetables that might have been contaminated with they've been experimenting with these vegetable jabs. And so once again, here at B1 Ag, we're not here to jump on one side or the other. And you're right, sister, I can't see this turning out well. I can't see this turning out well.
Now, we were talking about like the foodborne illnesses, and Upside Foods, they are actually saying that their lab meat is good for this. They said that the concept of zoonotic diseases has really come up in the last couple of years about how pathogens can transfer from animals to humans. You know, that's how they say the need for the jab came about. You know, these pathogens transferring from animals to humans. And epidemiologists have warned that increasing livestock production increases the likelihood of new diseases emerging. Meanwhile, the ever-present use of antibiotics in the pharma industry has hastened the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, creating a crisis that threatens to reverse decades of medical process.
Bruh.
They claim that with cultured meat, this lab-grown meat, that these problems are removed, as with the issues of animal cruelty. But as we just stated, okay, those pathogens, or the threat of these pathogens being transferred from animals to humans, but you just created a whole new arena for a whole new level of disease that could come about that our bodies are not equipped to handle.
The sister Jade Arendelle and Vicky Dillard, peace to the sisters, just touched upon this. So, right now the NIH is now taking Octor-Day Ouchie Fay. Like, hold up, you ain't about to mandate this on us. We approved this with the NIH, but no, we don't want this mandate. So when you're talking about these zoonotic diseases, well, if you're not funding a laboratory in Uwe Anhe and Duke, they say Duke was one of the. So if you're not funding these research, once again, dealing with these scientific-minded people, if I'm not funding somebody to go in a lab and start mixing and matching and playing with all of these things that nature didn't say we're supposed to operate together, then you wouldn't have these diseases. Because this earth has been here for a long period of time, and it's the home of billions and billions of different species of living organisms that our bodies have a natural immunity to if we're exposed to an excess of these different organisms. There was a time when we didn't have stoves. There was a time we didn't have refrigerators. And for me to be standing here right now talking on this stream, that means my ancestors were pretty resilient. That means that their bodies had some sort of defense mechanism to come across whatever they might have come across through eating, through breathing, through contacting other people. They survived. I have proof of that. Check the fact checkers. Because I'm here, that lets me know that, okay, we were able to survive some things. There have always been four-legged creatures, right, running around, which we call ruminants, farting, pooping on the land, but what they were doing is fertilizing the land. We learned this from Lion King, the cycle of life, the circle of life. When we allow scientists, because, all of us have gotten this lesson in the last year of how cutthroat this science game can be when it comes to our health. Here at B1 Ag, this is one of the reasons we really stress grow your own food. Are we telling everybody to go out there and become a farmer? We definitely need more. We definitely need support of the farmers who have been doing it. But it's to understand the process of how food is made. Right now, unfortunately, we're in a world where people are, we get a lot of our information through these devices that have these unnatural fact checkers that do have either financial interest in how we perceive the world around us, or nefarious reasons for how the general population sees the world around us. Going back to this argument right now with the NIH, they're like, no, we just want the underserved communities to get this. We didn't want y'all to mandate this for us. How do you think this manifests when it comes to the food? It makes me think of Popeyes. There's somebody that put a viral video up about Popeyes and the rats running through that. And then it makes me to think the year before, y'all had lines of people waiting for these new Popeyes sandwiches. And so you got to know, as they roll this lab-grown meat out, who are going to be the first people that they test this on, family? I think my 2-year-olds could answer that. Now let's see the long-term effects. Yeah. We see these excessively salted meats and foods and processed foods. We tried them in these projects. The word projects ain't an abstract word. There's a reason that they're projects. We're testing y'all. We're getting social information and data about how cramming people together in a small space is going to react. We're going to subject them to certain types of food. We're going to subject them to certain types of forms of healthcare. We're going to subject them to certain different stimuli so we can see how to implement this. These colonists never came here to say, I want to get power, I want to get control over something to give it back. Anybody living in that fantasy, I don't know what to say. So as a melanated family, as we're having this discussion, as to not come across as negative, one of the best things we can do is learn how to grow our own food. That is not a cute activity. It's not just something to pass the time. When we think about schools, I saw Dr. Boyce had he had done a post about, hey, if you want to fight the power, learn how to grow power. And there was a sister who was like, I got a degree, but I went in debt. And so I can't own land. Well, guess what? This is a thing that has to be addressed. I imagine there's a lot of melanated family who's waking up. Man, I done got all of these accreditations. I done got all of these things where these people told me I'm now smart and educated. But now the thing that I need education the most, it's just how to feed myself. You don't need a degree for that, family. You need a plan.
This is why this conversation needs to grow. We need to have more of us, more of the melanated family participating in this conversation about our food. I keep stressing, things are getting strange, y'all. Things are getting strange. Our food security it's always been at risk. It's always been at risk, but now it's being challenged in ways that it has never been challenged like before ever in human history. Lab-grown meat, test tube meat, really? Test tube meat that hasn't been tested yet on humans, but y'all want to go ahead and feed it to us?
The sister Cherry Wallflower brought up a point. She said that there was a show showing poor, I hate to use those words, poor, but showing poor people eating 3D printed meat and the elite eating organic meat. When we think about this Gates guy and these people that, we want to help these poor countries. We want to help these poor people that can't do anything for themselves. I mean, they're sitting on everything that makes the world wealthy, but they're poor. You're sitting on all of this land, but y'all poor melanated people. This is the game, family. It's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, it's hidden in plain sight. But when we find ourselves as a group, as a lost tribe, we've gotten away from what it is that we are. We were the original stewards of the land. One of the first things any living organism does after the offspring is born is to teach it how to feed itself. It doesn't learn how to read a conqueror's language. It doesn't learn how to behave. It learns how to operate within the ecosystem where it is. And to operate day to day, I need to plug in. If I want my phone to work, it's going to have to plug into a wall, an energy source. If I want my body to work, it's going to have to plug into an energy source. That power transaction is obtained through what I eat. And so we think about education. Nobody needs to give me a piece of paper to tell me that, hey, this is how you feed yourself. These are action items that we can take now wherever we're at, whether you're in an apartment, whether you're in a townhouse, whether you're in a cut somewhere. These are some of the first things that we not only, relearn as elders, but these are some of the first things to teach our youth, because we see where this world is going. I've actually tasted real chicken before. I've actually tasted, I taste greens out of the garden where I know exactly what goes into this. I did it. I put it in the ground. And so I know everything I'm eating. we're going to come to a point where we're going to have a generation of kids that don't know where their food came from. And if somebody presents them a 3D printed hot dog or hamburger, they're not going to know the difference. They're not going to know, oh, this isn't real.
And Cherry Wallflower, again, what she brought up about the show that poor people eating 3D printed meat and the rich eating organic natural meats. Just the same way with these mandates, how they're like, oh no, the mandates are for you, not for us. This alternative food, this 3D printed food, this lab grown meat, trust me, that's for us, not for them. Not for them. That's for us. They're trying to inject this in the food system for us to consume. Trust me, they're gonna have their natural organic foods just like on that show. That's like when if you look at any movie like back in the medieval times, when you go to the castle, you see that king. He's eating the best of fruits, the best of meats. While you see the people out there in the courtyard, most of them are scrounging over, meal, like grits, you know what I'm saying? Slop, while the king is eating very well. Same concept. These mandates and food.
Look at the power dynamic.
They want us to eat this. They want us to eat this other stuff. But trust me, they're gonna keep eating what's the best and what the Most High put here for us to eat.
You think Bill Gates? You think the so-called elite is out in the field growing anything? If you want to go with the slavery narrative, do you think they're out in the field growing anything? So where was the power coming from? Who was growing? The power is in our hands, family. This ain't something you go protest about. It's literally, not metaphorically, not using it as an example. Literally, the power is in being able to feed ourselves. And to be able to feed yourself, it has to start with knowing what it means to grow or raise what it is that you're eating. You don't have to go to the king to ask permission for that. We see how the NIH turned on their own. And so this thing of the knights that protect the king's castle, hey, y'all are subject to go hungry too. And so are you going to be on the side of those that know how to produce or that which is sitting on this throne? We got to think this out, family. We have all the power we need, and we have all the power we're going to get when it comes to dealing with these other people. I tend to believe that a lot of these things are happening now. This is, people have been praying for generations. God deliver us. God deliver us. I'm delivering you. I'm showing you what it is. I'm showing what y'all are dealing with. I've put a spell on these nefarious beings that they have to come out and tell the truth. And as they're coming out and telling the truth, are my chosen. My sheep will know my voice. That voice isn't like an audible voice. It's this program. When we talk about algorithms, it's this melanated algorithm that all of us have flowing through us, and we have a choice of whether or not to tap in or not. And one of the most natural ways to connect with the Most High is eating that of the garden that we were first placed in. When we decide that somebody in the laboratory has a better way of feeding us, you're giving away your freedom, because he who feeds you leads you.
And family, where do you want to be led? Do you want to be led to the garden, or do you want to be led to the slaughterhouse, or do you want to be led to the petri dish? That's what we're here for. B1 Ag. Grow this conversation. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Learn how to grow your own food. We have a great program at healthyblackfood.com. Healthyblackfood.com. We take from the seed to the table. We show you how to grow your own food. And as a part of the class, we meet once a month. Usually the first Thursday of every month. You can interact with us live as part of the class. We'll answer your questions. We'll give you the information you need to help you grow. We'll give you the information you need to make sure that you can produce enough food for yourself and your family, despite whether you're growing on your balcony, whether you're growing on your whether you're growing in your yard, or if you're just growing out of pots, or you have land. From small scale to medium scale to larger scale, we can get you the information you need to make sure that you can grow your own food and that you, yours, and those that you love are food secure. Farmer Brown. They done messed around and opened up the most technologically advanced lab-grown meat factory in Oakland, in the Bay Area, California.
Did you know Gavin Newsom had gone missing for like the last 11 days after he went and got boosted? He went and met with Dr. Jabinsky. You know, I'm promoting this to the people. Hey, this is the great way. And I'm saying that as a metaphor that this is the same way that this lab-grown meat is going to be marketed to the people as a solution to save the planet. So you're going to save the planet and kill the inhabitants. We're given a spirit of discernment, family. We're given a spirit of discernment. There's nothing radical about understanding the importance of learning how to grow food, learning what to expect from the food that you consume. There's nobody that can stop you from doing that. There's no legislation. You can't just go on somebody's land and start growing. But when we talk about urban agriculture, when we talk about vertical gardening, when we talk about container gardening, raised bed, there's many different ways where you can produce something that you consume wherever you're at. When we talk about communal economics, cooperative, build cooperatives. All of us walking around this planet right now are resources. All of us are good at something that has directly to do with food systems. Let us not look at agriculture as just this one monolithic concept of just corn in the field. No, agriculture is everything from seed to table, how people eat, food, fuel, and fiber. Everything that keeps life going. That's agriculture. Are we marketing the products that people we're meeting are producing? Are we making sure that food is available? Are we making sure we're mastering ways to store? Whether the energy grid goes down, we understand, okay, hey, we can store underground. Same way the ancestors did before there was a such thing as a whirlpool or a refrigerator. We're cooking meals at home. You know, instead of destroying the planet, having to get all of this cardboard that, you know, we're depleting all of these trees, we're cooking more meals at home. We're practicing fasting. We're cutting down on meat consumption. We're increasing our vegetable and fruit consumption. You know, we're changing our diets, not just out of fad, but we understand, okay, we've lived X amount of decades and we see what happens with these pre-existing conditions. All of us have had members of our family that have transitioned from things that was avoidable, that were directly tied to food, that were directly tied to depending on somebody that ain't originally from here providing the food for us. And so what do? We learn from the lessons of history. And you can never go wrong by learning how to grow your own food and connecting with like-minded individuals.
And please trust that here at B1 Ag, we will continue to push the black algorithm. We're fighting against the algorithm, the artificial intelligence. We're fighting against these lab-grown foods to push this black algorithm. We're fighting against the algorithm. You know, we're keeping it, we're going black to the garden. It's like we got to it's like hitting the reset button. We have to go back to the basics. We really have to go back to the basics. This is a wonderful world that we live in, and we need to treat it as such. We need to treat it as such.
Pushing the black algorithm. Ancestors, they mastered the system. We raising young bosses, no victims. We ain't gonna wait for the video to play, family. This was a very, very serious discussion today. Here at B1 Ag, we like to be solution based. We like to have a good time. We do see optimism. You know, we see a bright future, but I'm of a school of thought: no pain, no gain. This is a time for us to get our prints in the mud. Time to shed a little sweat and blood. It's going to be hard either way. It'll be hard trying to let somebody else take control of our future, and it's going to be equally hard work of creating our own future. But it can be done, and nothing can stop us when we decide that this is what we, a critical mass of us, decide that's important to us. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. It's pushing the black algorithm, family. It's pushing the black algorithm. These are all things that we can do within our home. You know, we don't have to be celebrities. We don't have to be rich. We can become the stars within our own homes. It's important that our kids see us as the ones making decisions. It's important that our kids see us as the ones having these conversations. Don't leave this conversation to the colonizers, because the colonizers will always say, well, here, you eat the 3D meat. You eat the lab-grown meat, and I'll eat the natural meat. We control the narrative.
So at the end of the day, Farmer Brown, if the people really want to know something, what do they need to do?
If you really want to know something, I put it like this: Jay Prince and Kanye met up. If you really want to know something, learn how to grow something.
Maybe we need to get Jay Prince to go holler at Brandon. You know, and maybe our black farmers will get their debt relief then. We need to have Jay Prince as the black farm representative. You know, maybe we'll get their debt relief and get these subsidies that they've been locked out of for these decades.
You know, because he got like 1,000 head of Angus down in Texas, Jay Prince. And so this is going to affect him. So, yeah, let's take the mob. Go holler at Brandon. Hey, Brandon. It make him poop himself.
But I really do. I'm just putting this random shout out to Jay Prince. We really would love to meet him and talk to him about agriculture. You know, he has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience. And agriculture is something he never really dived deep into and talked about. And that's a conversation that we would love to have with Jay Prince, you know, down there in Houston, Rap-A-Lot Records. You know, let's talk about this agriculture, bro. You know what I'm saying? Let's feed these kids. Let's feed these kids. Let's feed the world. B1 Ag, Daily Bread Podcast. It's been a great show. Hope y'all have a wonderful day, a love-filled day. Soak up some of this sunshine. Wiggle your toes in the grass. I know the weather's getting a little colder, but you know, it's still allow yourself to do some kind of grounding. Stay grounded. You know, appreciate what Mother Nature is giving us and offers us every day. Let's not take it for granted. Like I say, things are changing very fast. You know, they're trying to change things very fast. They want us to live in a digital world. Let's not forget that the real world is right outside of our windows and not scrolling through our phones. So until next time, I'm John Henry Harris. We have Farmer Brown EMC. Y'all be well, and we'll see you soon. Peace.